used to give it out to the girls, but nobody ever read it. And so I just thought it was kind of a waste of my money and yours too. And so if you want to get it, it's something that you can get. So just a brief definition of personality is made up, personality is made up of characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So our personality is made up of characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And that's what makes us unique. In addition to the fact that you have characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behavior, it arises from within the individual and remains fairly consistent throughout your life. In fact, it was funny today, I was visiting with Ethan, our missions pastor, and I call him Nathan, and he calls me Margie. So we got this anyway, Nathan and I were talking, and he said, he just heard recently that they've done a study of people who they've studied for 40 years, and they've noticed how much their personalities have changed in 40 years. And I thought that was kind of interesting because really our personalities usually stay pretty consistent through the years. But he said, I guess if you weren't a believer, your personality, you would just get worse and worse. You'd become a grumpy old man or a grumpy old woman or whatever. And I said, have you seen that movie, Grumpy Old Men? And that's pretty funny. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. I do think, you can notice some people's personalities change, and it could be because of a medication they take, things from the outside that are put into or a brain injury or something that would be any kind of trauma.
EMS.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, a certain time of the month could be a problem. But I think our personalities generally stay fairly consistent. I was outgoing in the first grade when someone told me to turn around rabbit teeth, and I'm still outgoing at the age I am now, and I still have an outgoing personality that I wouldn't probably know a stranger. I could just walk up to somebody and talk to them. And so that's, I think, important for us to realize that this is a personality that we were gifted with. Now we can improve our personality. We can maybe step out of our little comfort zones, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But mostly, and I love in Psalms 139, 13 and 14, where the psalmist says, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, Lord, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works." Can you really say that about yourself, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made? I really hope that you can. Because God gives each of us just the right personality combination. Throughout our lifetime, our personality is developed and it becomes stronger. And some people's personality are stronger than others. But even when you if you had your child, or you're a grandparent, and you see the new baby that's your grandchild, it isn't very long before you can tell that child's personality. It comes out. It seems like nowadays it comes out faster than it even used to. It's like, wow, I can tell that child is going to be, strong-willed, or that child is going to be just a happy child, or that, you can just see that little personality. And my daughter has 4 boys, and it's been so fun to see those boys develop and see how quickly we picked up their personalities. It's been very, very fun. So I'm sure that you're not surprised when I say that all of us are wired differently, as you just heard in your spiritual giftings already. However, some of us find similarities in others that draw us to them. And some of us find differences in others that draw us to. And if you'll notice if you're married and you'll notice your spouse, oftentimes their personality is different because you were drawn to that personality. It's really a cause for celebration. We just need to be celebrating our uniqueness because we really are unique. But I can't really say that that I've always felt that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I really didn't for so long really understand why God created me for who I am. I struggled for my first 24 years of my life with a poor self-concept, poor self-esteem, poor self-image, and didn't celebrate who I am. Now, if you were to know me then, you would have thought, oh, isn't she just an outgoing, happy little girl? Well, I was outgoing, but I don't think I was so happy. I think I, on the outside, made you think I was fine, but underneath, I didn't feel good about myself. And so it all started back when my mother named me Margaret. I never liked Margaret. I said, why did you ever name me Margaret? And so they always called me Margie. Well, that was the problem. They probably should have called me Margaret because Margie was Margie. So I never had my name pronounced correctly. I would say, hi, I'm Margie. Well, Margie, how are you? So don't you do it. And that, so right up front, I was always on the defense, always on the defensive, always, and you know, and to this day, people call me Margie here at the church. People come up on Sundays, oh, hi, Margie, and I just smile because after a while you're like, well, at least they called me something. But when I was younger, that was so hard on me. It affected my self-image because they could never get it right. It's like, were they listening to what I said? No, obviously not. And so I was so upset with my mother. Why did you name me this? You know, oh, I had a girlfriend, her name. I don't care. So I had, and so I found I needed affirmation in my life that I wasn't always getting. My father was harsh, and my mother was rather passive. But I know my mom was my encourager when she could be. And when she passed away, and she was 52 and I was 22. That devastated me. It devastated me because I realized the only person who I really felt loved me was gone, and she was very important to me. So I struggled, and after my mother, I had just graduated from college when my mother died, and after she died, I went and lived with my dad, and I helped care for her till she passed away. I took a summer after I graduated. I was going to move to Colorado Springs and be there and marry an Air Force cadet. And my folks lived in Moses Lake, Washington. Have you ever been to Moses Lake? It's the armpit of Washington. And here's Colorado Springs.
Did you know that my mom's born in Moses Lake? Okay.
And we finally came out one day. It was really interesting. Anyway, Colorado Springs to me was heaven, and Moses Lake was heaven. And my dad was a pastor there, and so he asked me to come home when I graduated, and so I left my plans and I went, I thought, for my father's plans. And my mother died, and I lived with my dad, and 9 months later my father remarried, and it was devastating to me because I didn't know this woman. He didn't really know her, but a well-meaning pastor, so if a well-meaning pastor comes your way, watch out, because he talked my dad into meeting her, and you know, my father had not dealt with his grief, and you know, one of those things. So I said, I'm out of here. I have got to get, I mean, I'm old enough, I've got to move on. So I left, and I went to another city and got a job as a teacher, and I changed my name to Liz.
To Liz?
And so I thought, this is a great name for me. It's sexy. And I was 22. I thought, this is it. I'm sure somebody's gonna like me. I'm Liz. And it was easy to say. You didn't get mixed up with it or anything.
Everyone can
And so I changed my name. I started teaching at this school, and I lived in an apartment complex, and everybody I saw at the apartment, my name is Liz. You know. The only problem with that was that I started doing things and acting like Liz and not Margie. I mean, I found myself not really being myself. I was not living like I should as a Christian young woman whose name was Margie, but who thought she might be Liz. Now, you're not to go out of this room with the name Liz, however, this stays all here. But during that time, God was dealing in my heart and my life and helping me to see, Margie, you are who you are. I created you this way. Your physical being, your personality, it's all the way I designed it to be. Well, I'm not sure I like that, God. I'm not sure I'm happy about that. But you are who you are. And you need to accept who you are and love who you are. Well, about that time, I met my husband to be. I didn't know he was going to be my husband. But
Wait.
one of the first things,
Wait,
yes,
what city were you in now?
in Portland, I was in
Portland.
Oregon.
Okay, all right.
One of the neat things about that was one of the first things, and of course then by that time I'd kind of gotten a hold of myself and decided I better go back and be who I am. So I went back to Margie. And the first thing Dale said to me was, I just love your name. I was like, oh, brother. This is not good. And I said, what do you mean my name? He goes, Margie, I just love it. And I'm going, hated it all my life. And he said, no, it just fits you perfectly. And I'm like, oh, this guy's good. I'm gonna hang on to him. Anyway, I think he used my husband, who wasn't my husband yet, to help me to see how important I was to God, and my worth was always there, you see. And so we can try to be somebody else, we could try to do other things, we could try to act this way, we can act, but you know what God wants us to do? He just wants us to be who we are. And so I said, okay, I think I'm just gonna be myself. And wow, he asked me to marry him. It just was great. Anyway, so I just thought so much about personality, and I've loved studying this because I just have decided that by studying our personality types, we understand ourselves better because you find out who you are, and then you are able to understand other people better, and that's how we work together, and that's how we learn to lead. If I wasn't feeling good about myself as a person, I would have a hard time leading other people to really feel good about themselves. And so also it helps us to understand the gifts that God's given us. And he has gifted each one of us with special gifts, and none always alike. So I don't think God ever intended our personality to be a handicap. He really wanted it to be an endowment. He gave us this personality to be who we are. So he has entrusted you with special character, talents, and gifts. And when you're able to recognize this and begin to cultivate those and use what God has given you and be the person God intended for you to be, you're going to discover new dimensions in your life and in your discipleship, really. So we're going to talk about preferences, and what I gave you to do is called a personality sorter. So it's not going to be just right on. I mean, there's going to be things where you might be over here a little bit or over here a little bit, but what we want you to try to do is to try to find what is strongest for you in the areas. And I love this Myers-Briggs because it gives us kind of a full picture of who we are. And of course, you know, our identity is where? It's in Christ. That's where our identity is. So I want you to remember that. My identity is not in my name, Margie, or Liz, or whatever it is. My identity is not in what I do. My identity is in Christ. And I have to be honest with you. I have to remind myself of this. Because in this chapter of my life where I've just given up an identity, so to speak, I've had to say to myself and to the Lord, you've got to help me to understand my identity is in you. My identity is in you. It's not in what I was doing. So I've been kind of, you know, I thought about changing my name to something else. No, not good. I'm going to stick with the one I got. But, you know, I just think we do have to keep reminding ourselves, this is who I am. This is how God created me. He gifted me, and this is who I am. So, but we're gonna work this particular indicator as a tool, just a tool. So don't say, oh my gosh, I'm so upset, this was this, and that. It's a tool, it's preferences. So we're gonna look at 4 sets of preferences, and what is a preference? Okay, this is what I want you to do. I take your right hand with your pen, and on the paper that I gave you, just write your name on this paper that I passed out. Fine, that's your hand.
You can use your.
You,
Say
write
your
the
right
name
hand.
that,
I wasn't
this is
sure.
your preferred hand, write your
Okay.
name, write your name. Everybody write your name. Okay, and now what I want you to do is I want you to use the other hand and write your name under that name.
So you were saying
Yeah, I'm sorry, your left hand could be your right hand.
Oh dear.
Okay,
That's my left hand.
so when you wrote with your preferred hand, how many are left-handed here? That's good, that's great. My little grandsons, I've got 2 of them, and my son was left-handed. It's good. My brother is ambidextrous, he could use either, so I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, when you write your name with your preferred hand, it's natural, isn't it? You don't even think about it, you just wrote it. We didn't even have to, but when you write with your other hand, you have to think about it, don't you? I remember last November, a year ago November, not this last November, but a year ago, I did something really stupid. I picked up a box, and I don't know what I did, but I tore this in my hand here. I tore the ligament or whatever is in here. And this was my right hand, and I am preferred on the right. And I had to have a cast on my arm for 6 weeks, and I couldn't do hardly anything. My husband had to blow dry my hair. It was very exciting. And I was just dumbfounded. I cannot tell you that I probably had very few times used this hand. This hand was always what I used. And I had to learn, my writing will never be the same. But I thought I was in kindergarten. I was writing with this hand, and I was trying to do things with this hand, and I was trying to cook with this hand, and I was trying to do all the things that because I had this problem here.
Wow.
And it was awful. It was just awful. And yet I thought, wow, I never thought about when I use this hand, I never thought a thing about it. How easy we just take things for granted, and then all of a sudden, we can't use what we need to use. So it was a journey. So it's important to remember that a person is just not one or the other in these 4 sets. Rather, one can be some of one and some of the other, but the purpose of these is to show people that we can differ in our actions. But we want to know what's our strongest, and you would pick that out. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to answer the question, what do you prefer to focus your attention, or where do you get your energy? And that's your first line. So down on the bottom of your first line, what is the most of the numbers there?
What?
Is it A or B? Of your first
because
column
the
down,
answer sheet.
of your
Oh,
first column down.
answer.
What if
On
they're
your-
even, like 5 and 5?
That's where I need you to kind of decide
Oh, okay.
one are you a little more, and as I explain what it is, that'll help you to understand. Okay, so
So I'm not broken.
extroversion versus introversion. So extroverted versus introverted. This is the question, where do you prefer to focus your attention? Or where do you get your energy? So the person who chooses extroversion, or the E, chooses people, activity, and the outer world as a source of energy, while the person who prefers solitude to recover energy, to be energized, may tend towards introversion. So if you are an extrovert, fine. If you're an introvert, fine. Some people say, well, that's less. No, it isn't. It is not. It's just, you both can be friendly people, but one is, you guys give me my energy. My husband would prefer to be down by himself to recover is energy. Do you see the difference? So there again, right there, I married somebody who is kind of the opposite of me in some ways. And that's been kind of a fun journey to see all that. So extroverts appear to be energized by people. Talking to people, playing with people, working with people is just what charges their batteries. You know, I come home from Wild and I'm just all charged up. Deb was ready to go to bed now. Well, not me. And so they would even experience loneliness when they're not in contact with people. I always told Dale, if you ever put me in a closet, just consider me gone, because that would be the worst thing you could do. It'd be like living in prison for me. I love people. I love to be with people. But there's times when I do enjoy having some time to myself. And so introverts are a little more territorial. They desire space. They like private places in the mind and private environmental places. They just kind of like to be by themselves, and it's okay working alone. Maybe reading, meditating, one-on-one encounters seem to charge their batteries. Diane, that would be how you charge your batteries. They can be lonely in a crowd, an introvert. Being around people can drain their energy. So you kind of see. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have you divide up, and I want all the extroverts over here and the introverts over here, standing up. So get up.